The arena buzzed with anticipation as a cryopod was wheeled onto the sandy floor. The operator, a four-legged creature with a tentacled face, sneered as he activated the primitive defrosting sequence. "Welcome back to the Grand Arena, my fellow podlings." A booming voice echoed through the open amphitheater. "Today, we have a truly special event, a fight against a newly discovered species." The crowd roared in excitement. It had been centuries since a new species had entered the arena. The voice continued. "This poor fool was found on our southern border after his ship's reactor exploded. Imagine being so incompetent that you can't even secure your own vessel." The crowd burst into laughter, mocking the soon-to-be victim. As the cryopod completed its cycle, the gate at the end of the arena cranked open. "But enough talk. Let us welcome Tharg the Decimator." The crowd erupted into frenzied cheers as a massive ape-like creature lumbered into the arena, clad in heavy armor and wielding a colossal flail. Tharg, standing 8 feet tall, raised his arms, basking in the adoration of the crowd. His footsteps shook the ground with every step. The cryopod hissed open, and out stepped a human, standing 7 feet tall and encased in bright blue ceramic armor adorned with various insignias. The human surveyed his surroundings with a calm, calculating gaze. The crowd's jeers faltered as they took in the sight of this warrior. He was no primitive fool. This was something different. "Podlings of the Grand Arena." The announcer shouted, "The challenger has awoken. Let the massacre begin." The crowd roared once more, eager for the bloodshed. Tharg charged, his thunderous steps echoing through the arena. But the human moved with a speed that defied his size, effortlessly dodging Tharg's attack. In a blur of motion, the human swung his massive two-handed blade, slicing clean through Tharg's legs. The beast fell, and before he could even register his defeat, the human's blade severed his head from his shoulders. Tharg's lifeless body hit the ground with a heavy thud. Without hesitation, the human sprinted toward the open gate, which began to close too slowly. He cut down several security officers with terrifying efficiency, his blade slicing through claws, armor, and carapace alike. Blood and gore splattered across the walls as the human tore through the arena's interior. The arena's riot response team, 30 men strong and armed with charged rifles, railguns, and plasma rifles, formed a defensive line at the entrance to the spaceport. The human soldier didn't break stride. He tossed a small cylindrical object at the guards, and a blinding flash followed by an ear-splitting explosion disabled or killed several of them instantly. In the chaos, the human slaughtered the remaining guards, methodically checking each weapon he found, before settling on a pulse rifle and a railgun. Armed with his new weapons, the human carved a devastating path through the arena's employees. He moved with lethal precision, every shot finding its mark. If a target was too close, he simply switched to his blade, cutting down anyone in his way. No one could stop him. Finally, the human reached the slave pits. The caged prisoners watched in horror as he ripped the doors off their hinges and shattered their chains. He barked orders at them, rallying the terrified slaves toward the spaceport. As they ran, the human killed over 50 more soldiers who tried to stop them. At the docking pad, the cargo ship whose pilot the human had killed earlier was still waiting. The human ushered the 74 freed slaves aboard and started the transport, heading straight for the nearest hyperlane exit. Within 20 minutes, they were gone, escaping the star system before the nearby fleet could even respond. The council watched the security footage in stunned silence. Fear and disgust filled the room as they witnessed the human soldier's unstoppable rampage. The human counselor, who had been watching with a sinister smile, finally spoke. "So, what exactly are we here for?" he asked, his tone dripping with mockery. You are here to face formal charges by the Decani Imperium for humanity's attack on one of their colonies." A lion-like Catharist counselor stammered, trying to regain his composure. The human counselor laughed, the sound cold and menacing. "You mean the charges laid after they got their asses handed to them by the soldier they kidnapped? After they sabotaged one of our warships? Oh yes, I remember those charges." As if on cue, 10 more soldiers, identical to the ones seen in the footage, marched into the room, their presence causing the council members to gasp in terror. The reality of what they had seen was undeniable. "What heresy have you created, human?" one of the Decani counselors demanded, his voice shaking. "What? Oh, the brainless warriors actually speak." The human counselor sneered. Well, since you asked so nicely, these are called legionnaires, a cross between a Spartan and a space marine, he said, gesturing to the soldiers surrounding him. Why would you create such creatures? Another counselor asked, his voice barely a whisper. The human counselor grinned, a sly, wicked smile. Well, Games Workshop kept suing us for copyright, so we couldn't make Space Marines. 343 and Bungie threatened to sue us, so we couldn't make Spartans. So we made a combination of both. Then we threatened to pull their operating licenses if they tried to sue us again. They stopped after a few stockholders went missing, he said with a smirk, clearly enjoying the council's horror. The council was at a loss for words. The human counselor's smile faded as he continued, his tone growing darker. Oh, you mean morally? Well, I don't know. In human land, slavery is illegal, immoral, unacceptable, punishable by execution. You have slaves. Why can't we have super soldiers? You don't have any right to tell me what is good or evil here. As far as I'm concerned, and my opinion is all that matters here, what you do in those colonies, with those arenas, is the worst thing you can possibly do. The council members exchanged fearful glances. The human counselor leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Therefore, I hereby propose the following changes to galactic law. He pressed a series of buttons on his keypad, and images appeared on the council's screens. The images showed the homeworlds of various worst offenders, with thousands of legionnaires standing in the foreground, their helmets angry and menacing. The human counselor's voice was ice-cold as he continued, I propose that kidnapping and slavery be made illegal, punishable by death. To those who would vote no, I want you to consider that devastation you just witnessed caused by one legionnaire. Now, imagine what would happen to your homeworlds if I unleashed thousands of them. The human counselor leaned back in his chair, his sinister smile returning as the legionnaires in the room readied their weapons. I'm sure, one way or another, you'll see our point of view. The room fell into a tense, deadly silence as the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance.